Hello and welcome back to another episode of SustyTalk. This is Edie's video series designed to keep you guys feeling connected during lockdown and beyond with sustainability leaders across the globe. And I'm really happy to have Zach Angelini on from Timberland today, and he's their environmental stewardship manager. So a real pleasure to have you on the video call today. How are you doing?
Good, thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. Definitely some crazy times that we're in with COVID today, and some need for real adaptability, I think. But overall, I think so far so good. It's exciting for me because even amidst all of the challenges presented by COVID, we've managed to keep sustainability as a real priority at Timberland, and we just announced really bold product sustainability goals out to 2030 and a new product innovation vision. So for me, it gives a real sense of motivation and inspiration looking into the future.
And I'm sure we'll touch on all of those topics during the interview, but I can see that, have you been working from home recently?
Yes. Yep. Yep. This is my home office here.
Fantastic. So how do you stay connected to the team and to your other partners in the initiative while you're doing that?
So yeah, it's a lot of Zoom meetings, of course. We actually just held our first big Zoom workshop with over like 40 people, and we managed to run it with breakout rooms and things like that. So definitely thankful to technology and everything that enables.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I think, is it your first time coming on to our videos or podcasts?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I know I've speak to Colleen, who is Director of Sustainability at Timberland, a few times, and I know that people who read us will probably be aware, but it'd be great to hear a bit more about your role, remit, and your career at Timberland too.
Sure. So yeah, sustainability is really central to the Timberland brand. It's really well integrated into the business as a whole. That's one of the big reasons that I came to work for Timberland in the first place. And so in my role specifically, I lead Timberland's global product sustainability strategy, which really involves leading the cross-functional teams that are tasked with setting and then delivering on bold product sustainability goals. So this involves measuring our environmental impact of our products in order using life cycle assessment data in order to really focus our efforts. And then from there, leading projects that are aimed at reducing those impacts with the ultimate vision of delivering net positive impacts through our product creation. And then in addition to that as well, I help to forge relationships with NGOs and sustainable raw material suppliers that are really our critical partners in helping us to deliver on these goals.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you get some free time in all of that.
I try. Yeah, it's good to get outside for some inspiration.
And as you've said, it's been a really busy time at the moment because we're speaking shortly after Timberland did get set new goals to put it on that pathway to net positivity by 2030. And we covered this on our site, but essentially the two underpinning commitments are to ensure full circularity and full regenerative sourcing of natural materials by 2030. And I wanted to dive a bit more into how Timberland is defining regenerative and circular, because I've seen different companies use different definitions, and sometimes they do get used as a bit of a buzzword.
Sure, definitely. So yeah, starting with circularity, how we're thinking about that concept and applying it to our product, it's a matter of first using recycled materials on the front end as we create our products, but then also making sure to design those materials into our products in a way that maintains their recyclability, so that at the end of a long and useful life of that product, those materials can be taken apart and designed into a new Timberland product and really kind of complete the circle of life for a Timberland product in that way. So it's really the combination of both those approaches for when we achieve full circularity. And it's interesting too, we actually piloted this way back in 2010 with what was called our Earthkeepers 2.0 shoe. This was a shoe that was made of minimal materials that were put together in a way that they were totally designed for disassembly at the end of life of the shoe, so that those materials could be recycled into a new product. And this product was definitely a little bit ahead of its time back in 2010, but we got a lot of learnings from that. And so we're working to incorporate those learnings as we work on this next iteration of circular products. So then in terms of regenerative agriculture, at kind of a higher level, we really like Form for the Future's definition, which is an agricultural system that puts more back into the environment and society than it takes out. So we think that's really a good way to kind of describe it in general, but then drilling down a little bit more into the weeds, for us, we're specifically focused on farming practices that intentionally protect and restore ecosystem function with measurable outcomes in terms of improving soil health, biodiversity, carbon sequestration, and water cycling. And then in addition to that, it's really necessary to also deliver on positive economic and social impacts for farmers in order for the practices to be sustainable in the long run. So that's really kind of how we define and describe circularity in regenerative agriculture separately, but then how those two approaches come together is that really through circularity, we're aiming to achieve this idea of net zero impact or neutrality. And then with regenerative agriculture, that's really where we're aiming to tip the scales into the net positive space and actually work towards this idea of a greener future, which is something that the Timberland brand is really passionate about.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that the brand already has experience with creating a circular product, and I know that there was already work underway to pilot some regenerative leather too, but what is next on the agenda that needs to happen to scale those learnings up? What's on your to-do list for the near future?
Sure. Yeah. So that's kind of exactly it. We're starting by diving headfirst into pilots for regenerative and circular innovations across actually all of our top volume materials. So really the idea is to use these pilots as test and learn opportunities and then take those learnings and really drive towards scale throughout our broader product lines from there. So to give some examples, like you mentioned, we're launching our first ever regenerative leather boot this fall, which we're really excited about. And it's a major milestone for us because we really, with our partners, built a new regenerative leather supply chain really from the ground up. So working with our partner, Other Half Processing, to identify and aggregate these early adopter regenerative ranches, and then connect them in with our large scale tannery partners to build this supply chain that really just didn't exist before. And for us, this is so huge because leather is both our top volume material, but then also our top impact material. And so regenerative cattle ranching presents this really cool opportunity to potentially transition it from today being our most negatively impactful material to the future potentially being our most positively impactful material. So definitely really excited about that initiative. We also just kickstarted a regenerative rubber pilot project in Thailand. Through this, we're working with farmers who use a practice called dynamic agroforestry to grow their rubber. On the ground, they refer to this rubber actually as jungle rubber, because basically the idea is that they're aiming to replicate the biodiversity that you see in the rainforest on these rubber plantations, which is very different from conventional natural rubber plantations, which are really actually devoid of biodiversity. So another project we're really excited about with really strong potential to deliver positive regenerative outcomes, both for the environment as well as for the farmers growing it. We also have a project where we just signed an agreement to fund the transition of 250 farmers in India to regenerative organic certified practices. And we'll be sourcing that cotton from those farmers for our apparel products in fall of 2021. And then in spring of 2021, also on the cotton front, we're launching our first ever community cotton products, which is cotton sourced from our Haiti agroforestry project. And this is another big milestone for the brand because it really represents the restart of Haiti's cotton industry, which has been dormant for actually about the past 30 years. And so we're working with our partners on the ground there to bring it back in a way that's beneficial to the environment as well as the smallholder farmers growing it. And then finally, we also have a project working on regenerative sugarcane in Brazil. And so this will be a material that we're aiming to use as a bio-additive to our EVA soles in our shoes. So lots of pilots going on the regenerative front. And then on the circular front, this fall, we're launching our first ever recycled leather material. We're expanding our use of recycled cotton in footwear and apparel, our use of recycled wool, and then also working on those design for disassembly initiatives that I mentioned before to kind of complete that circle of life for our products. So that's kind of like short term, that's everything we're working on kind of right off the bat. But then, like I mentioned, long term, it's really strategically using those pilots as test and learn opportunities to identify some of those key unlocks that are really going to help us to drastically scale these over the next several seasons.
Mm-hmm. Great. And you mentioned their partnerships a fair few times, and this is the case with a lot of the regenerative or net positive or nature-based projects that we speak with businesses about. So what's the process like for selecting a meaningful partner for this initiative, and why is that so important compared to, say, just going in yourself and trying to solve this top down?
Totally. Yeah. So we're a member of several industry organizations in our space and in the sustainability space, and attend a lot of the sustainability conferences that happen in our space as well. And so that's really kind of the how in terms of identifying partners. These are really spaces that serve as key hubs for collaboration, identifying partners, staying on top of the real kind of cutting edge research and innovation in the sustainability space. And so we use that to establish those connections, and really they're the connections that help kind of catalyze change at scale, like you mentioned. And I think a good example of that from the past is we were actually a founding member of a group called the Leather Working Group. Timberland and another additional handful of brands really helped to establish this group, which its main objective was to address the impacts of the tanning industry as a whole. And so today, Timberland sources 96% of our leather from tanneries rated silver or gold by the Leather Working Group for environmental best practices. And so what's so cool about this is that by working with our partners to establish this group, we not only were able to efficiently really revolutionize our own supply chain, but really help to revolutionize the tanning industry as a whole through those partnerships. And then that's really exactly what we're hoping to do in the future now in the spaces of regenerative agriculture and circularity. So a good example of that would be we recently became members of the Savory Institute, which has the mission to really promote and improve the research around regenerative agriculture in collaboration with both other fashion brands as well as brands within the food sector. So we really see this, really believe in the power of collaboration and the scale that you can achieve through that.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then I wanted to ask lastly, because we're probably going to have people listening to this that aren't from a brand like Timberland, which has a strong outdoor heritage and has been working on circular solutions for some time. They're probably looking at this and wondering where to start. So what advice would you give for others looking to set just more ambitious targets or more ambitious strategies in these areas?
Sure. So yeah, I think kind of building on what I was saying before, we know that in order to efficiently achieve the goals ourselves and also to amplify our impact across the industry, collaboration is going to be absolutely critical. So that's both collaboration within the fashion industry, but also across sectors. As I mentioned, like with regenerative agriculture, collaboration with food companies is going to be really important to drive that at scale as well. So would definitely encourage other brands to join those industry groups that I mentioned, like the Textile Exchange, Sustainable Brands, Sustainable Apparel Coalition, the Outdoor Industry Association, and really through those, look for those collaboration opportunities with other brands and identify the areas where you either have the opportunity to tap into the work that another brand is doing, or where you're best positioned to lead yourself as a brand. And that was really kind of the assessment that we did. And when we look across our products and materials, really our top volume materials are all natural materials. So we knew that we had this big leverage and opportunity to lead in the natural material space with regenerative agriculture. And then within our circularity pillar, really drilling down into recycled natural materials, where other companies may use a lot more synthetics and plastics and can lead there in the terms of recycled plastics. We really saw this opportunity to lead with regenerative and recycled naturals. And then just to give an example of that, when we think about building like a new regenerative supply chain, it's obviously, for starters, we're thinking about it for our own products, but we're really aiming to set those up so that eventually our competitors and the industry as a whole can tap into those supply chains, so that we are able to really realize the change that we need to see across the industry. And the idea is really to help transition the fashion industry from being one that today causes environmental harm to eventually one that can actually restore the environments that we source from, and really help lead to a world that's more alive, more abundant, and more resilient than what we have today.
No, in the past month, I've worked on other commitments like this from Patagonia and from Tommy Hilfiger. So it's refreshing to hear that this is not a competitive issue necessarily.
Right. We definitely see this space when it comes to protecting the planet for future generations. This is really a space where there's not room for that type of competition, but really a big opportunity for collaboration.
Well, there you have it. I think that's a great note to end on, and that's all the questions I have for Zach today. So thank you so much for sparing your time.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning in. If you've enjoyed listening to this interview, you can find all of our past episodes on our YouTube channel and under the SustyTalk tag on our website. We'll be bringing you new episodes on a regular basis of around one a week. But until the next episode, I hope you all stay safe, stay well, and keep up the conversation. Thank you so much.